What's up, guys? We are back for another NECA review. Today we're taking a look at sort of the counterpart to the recent Target exclusive thermal Fugitive Predator that I looked at. We're taking a look at the regular version today. So this is the Predator, the ultimate Fugitive Predator from NECA. This is one that I'm even more interested to look at now than I was previously, just because I kind of know what to expect, and that exclusive version really blew me away. So we've got this guy here in our ultimate style packaging. You can see the kind of silhouette of the Fugitive Predator on the front. The same kind of image runs down the spine of the box, and then the back has got a little bit of a bio as well as a bunch of product shots for this guy. And then, keeping with normal Ultimate packaging, you can pull this guy open. You've got a product shot here on the inner flap, and then you can see the Predator in all his glory and all his accessories in that big window. So let's do it. Let's pull this guy out and take a look. Alright guys, here he is out of the package, our Fugitive Predator, and this is one that I was really looking forward to taking a look at because of the fact that I recently looked at that Target exclusive thermal version before I saw the movie, before I got a hold of this figure. And while that movie is certainly not great by any means, I really like the design of this Predator, and frankly I like this Predator in that movie, and he just translates to a pretty solid figure. And after watching this review, if you need one for yourself, head on over to Big Bad Toy Store and you can snag one. I'll put a link down below. But let's kick things off and take a look at Articulation real quick. If you caught my thermal version review, you'll know that it's the exact same thing, so there's not too much to really run through new, but we are going to take a look just to do it real quick. So we'll start at the head. You can go up, you can go down, side to side, little bobble. The plasma caster is there, but it's really not in the way this time around on this particular figure. Arms can go out, you can swivel. There is a lower bicep swivel, sort of, on these, because they have removable forearms, so the joint system is a little different. Double jointed elbows get you pretty good movement there, and then you have got rotation at that gauntlet. You've got rotation and hinge at the wrist. He's got an upper diaphragm twist, so you can move him forwards and backwards for a pretty decent crunch forward, all things considered. And then bobble side to side, which is really nice. I mean, look at that. That's pretty crazy. And then you've got twist at the waist. Legs go out. They kick forward. They kick back. You've got a thigh cut up there. We've got moving pads here, which is probably my one big gripe with this figure, but that's not Articulation. We have got double jointed knees. They go back pretty far. You have to watch these pads because they are going to hit, and then you'll eventually just start hitting this knee pad here as well. And then we've got the telltale NECA Predator ankles, so they've got ball pegs down here. Forwards, backwards, rotation, and then a little movement side to side. It's a little restricted because of just the design of this guy. He's a little different from other Predators. He's not a classic looking Predator in build, so he does have pretty good movement, and you can get him into some really solid dynamic poses. The only thing that you really need to watch out for is just the different arm system that he has, just because it is slightly changed up from what you might be expected around the elbows. As far as the look and feel of this guy, I think regardless of what you think of this movie, and like I said, it's certainly not a great movie. It's got to be the worst Predator movie. Maybe. The AVPs aren't that great either. But this figure is rock solid. I love everything about the design of this Predator. And the other Assassin Predator that we're getting soon, I mean, the designs for this movie in general, I think they knocked it out of the park. And NECA has translated it really well into figure form. And after seeing that thermal Predator, I knew that I just had to get my hands on the regular one because there is so much sculpt on that thing, but it's kind of obfuscated by the whole shtick behind the thermal vision aspect of it. But this guy is just kind of decked out, really. I've already attached some of his accessories. I figure they're really not accessories to me. I feel like they're very much integral components to this particular figure, and that would be these blades. And frankly, if I have one real gripe about this figure, it's getting these things in is a humongous pain. They're very finicky. The tolerance on the little slots you have to peg them in is really low, or high, I guess, rather. So there is not much room for error, so just be careful. You could possibly snap them off pretty easily. But of course, he does look really cool with two blades coming out of each arm. Generally speaking, this figure looks fantastic. Tons and tons of paint apps on this guy. You've got just every piece of armor is decked out from the thigh pads down to the shin guards. You've got all of this kind of futuristic chainmail type of armor up here. That's obviously not what it is, but it certainly looks like a chainmail type of setup. Tons of paint and wash and grit and grime on the gauntlets here, and then of course those blades that I've already talked about. You've got more paint apps on the back on the little loincloth piece that hangs out over his Predator butt. And then when you think about from the skin aspect of things, you've got the Telltale Predator fishnets that's on him, and the netting is really nicely done, nice paint apps. And then he's got tons of different coloration on the skin itself, from a really dark hue down on the feet to very spotted reds on the hands, following up to the arms and on the chest and the waist. But you've also got some kind of underbelly color with that yellow that's on the biceps, on the stomach, and then a little bit on the thighs. So there's a lot going on just in general from a paint apps perspective, and then the sculpt, because this is a lot of new stuff for this figure. This is a very unique Predator. So of course NECA had to do, you know, a lot of new stuff for this guy. And then he does have these two shoulder pads up here, which are unique. So it's not a mirroring thing. They're very, very different. This one's really beaten and battered, and this one's a little more pristine. And then he's got his plasma caster up here. He's got one of the little small rinky-dink ones, so it's hinged and you can tilt it around. But this one hangs pretty well, and it's not very loose either. My thermal vision one was kind of loose, and I think that was mostly just a plastics thing. This one is far more tight and in place. And then for the head on this guy, I mean, just look at it. The detail on the head sculpt alone is top-notch. Tons and tons of detail. Again, this is another instance where this guy is unique. He's very different. There is no other Predator mask out there that I know of that looks like this, or at least one that I've never come across. So it's all just very different, very new. There's a lot of different, you know, techie parts in here. Obviously, the Predators are a more advanced alien species, but this one looks a little bit more advanced to me. It just looks heightened in terms of its techie nature, and I like the gold accents on it. I like the varying hues of black and the gunmetal, and then you can see a little bit of the Predator face and the head sticking through. So it's very much kind of a Jungle Hunter-esque helmet with a little notch in the back as well. And then of course we always have dreads. We've got black that actually fades to gray this time around though, and then you've got some silver accents throughout. So another stellar head sculpt, and it just fits really well. It all goes together with this particular suit of armor, and he flows really nicely. Now, as far as accessories goes, the name of the game here is different looks, changing up his appearance, and this guy has a few different ways that you can achieve that. So you have got, of course, we've got a new head sculpt here. So we've got an unmasked head, an unhelmeted head, and this one he's, you know, kind of snarling. You can see the mandibles are open. You can see his mask, tons of detail in there. He's got a nice kind of red hue that runs around the crest of the head. He looks very, very Predator-esque, but he also looks very different. This guy is very much what you think of when you think of a Predator, but at the same time, he looks slightly different than, you know, just about every other Predator, because he's not a regular Predator in that sense. There is, without spoiling the movie for people who still haven't seen it, there is definitely a unique quality about this guy, and I think some of that comes through in the face, and I think NECA just nailed it. The paint job on this guy in general is stellar. Tons of sculpted detail, lots of little sculpted detail that it's hard to see until you're really up on it, but you know exactly what NECA's doing when they try to pull all these little details in. And I think it's a fantastic looking head sculpt. Chances are I'm never going to use it because I really, really love the helmet on this guy, but I always like to have the options. The other accessories that this guy has, not including the blades that you put onto the wrist guards here, just because I didn't want to go through the whole review not having them on there, because they very much are integral to me. So you do have those, 2 for each arm. But you can see I've already got a little difference here. So we have got swappable arms in general with this guy. So one of the things in the movie is that he doesn't have his gauntlets for a time, and he is bare-armed for a bit. So they brought that through as a means to give us a few more accessories. And you pull the arms apart at this lower joint here, and then you just pop them out and pop them back on. So it's pretty easy. There's really no muss, no fuss to get them on and off, and the paint job on it is pretty solid. It flows with that paint job from the elbow and the bicep. And you can even, this is the main thing that I'm probably going to do with mine, is you can pop the hands off, and then you've got 2 extra sets of hands. So you have a style post set of hands with each arm. So you can give the gauntlet arms, for example, a style pose hand, or take the fist off and put it on these hands. So you can swap those out even more, and it can be a little more interchangeable than what they've supplied in the box, because it is all stuff that you can swap in and out. So I think you've got a lot of options here. Even though they've only supplied a very small number of accessories in general, they do have a lot of different options for you to play up how you want to display this guy. So at the end of the day, this is a figure that I'm just pretty much head over heels for, all things considered. Obviously, if you've been watching my reviews recently, I am on a bit of an unexpected Predator kick, but this figure is just a solid figure. There's really no way to sugarcoat it. It's just a fun figure. Tons of paint apps, tons of sculpted detail, a lot of interchangeable options with all the accessories that you get. The only real gripe that I have about this guy is that those blades on the wrists are incredibly difficult to get in, so just beware. Make sure that you don't chip them or break them or anything like that, because they are really, really tough to get in. The tolerance is just really, really tight. Otherwise, I think it's a solid figure if you're a Predator fan, even if you don't like this movie, which, you know, like I said a couple times, it's not great. I had my fun with it, but it's not a great movie. But this guy is a fun-looking Predator. He's got a cool new shtick about him. He's got a different look, and it's always nice to get something very similar, but also very different in this line. So it's a fun one. I would suggest taking a look at it. So that's going to do it for this look at the NECA Toys Fugitive Predator. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.